Annotated bibliographies are some of the type of questions that you should expect in academic writing. So in this video, I'm just going to run you guys through annotated bibliographies, explain what they are and how to write them. So I found a definition which online I just copy pasted. So annotated bibliography is a list of citations to books, articles, and documents. And then each citation is followed by a brief, descriptive, and evaluative paragraph, which in this case is annotation. So the purpose is to inform the reader of the relevance, accuracy, or quality of the sources cited. Yeah, so annotated bibliography, just like your reference page, only that below every reference list that you have in the reference page, you put a small annotation. So the word annotation is just like a small descriptive or evaluative paragraph about every source. So I want you guys to just think of it as a reference page where you've pasted all your references. The only difference now is that every reference is followed by a small paragraph, which we are calling the annotation. So you annotate every citation. So you might be required to write the AB either before or after the research paper, but in most cases, usually before the research paper. So when you are told to do an annotated bibliography before the research paper, it's just like a test to confirm that you can actually find accurate materials online on the particular topic that you've been given. So what you will do in that case, you will look for and summarize relevant or potentially useful material, you evaluate them, and then you indicate how you will use them in the research paper. So you are usually given the topic by the client or the student, and then you have to go online to look for materials that might help you to write that research paper if you are to write it. So some students will actually give you will actually ask you to do the annotations, and then they will also assign you the question when the teacher now approves that they should go ahead and write the paper. So it's just a good way because you try to use it to do resources that consider resources that you will most likely use if you are given the question to do. So the length will depend on the assignment. If you are given the word limit, so you have to divide depending on the word limit and the number of sources you are required to have, number of articles rather, in that annotation. So of course you will do the math. So if it's 2k words you're required and then they're telling you have 10 sources, so you'll do the math and you find that you need about 200 words for every citation, for every reference list. For every reference, there's a 200 word paragraph which will summarize the article, evaluate, and indicate its potential usefulness. So the process, you get the research topic. In an assignment case, the client will obviously provide the research topic. And then your work is to break down the research topic. Maybe the research topic is just, effects of corruption. So it's upon you to break it down as though you're actually going to write it, break it down into parts that you can address, because if you just go with effects of corruption and you're looking for effects of corruption, you will not get many sources. So if you are breaking it down so you can get different sources per the various parts that you've decided to address the question from. So you get the topic and then you break it down as you would if you were doing the actual write-up. So for example, if the topic was effects of corruption, it's upon you to decide how you will address it. In this case, I can decide to address it from a social, economic, and political perspective. And therefore, I can just go and search for social effects of corruption, that alone, and get maybe 3 sources. I got economic effects, 3 sources, and then political effects, 4 sources. I have my 10 sources. So breaking down just helps you to get more sources. It helps you to expand the possible keywords you'll use, because you'll change to a social, economic, and political. You can go as far as break social effects down further into health, so that you're specifically looking articles on Google Scholar on how corruption rather affects health. So you can break the question down further depending on how you want to approach it. Yeah, so after you've found the way to break it down, you've decided how you would approach it as you would in an actual write-up. Now you look for the sources from Google Scholar or any other scholarly database that you use that generates citations or rather references. So you get the full reference as we do. If it's MLA, you do MLA, you copy MLA citations. If it's CPA, the same. And then below each reference, you will now write the summary. You summarize the article, okay? So write the summary. So a summary is basically you can summarize by just looking at the abstract. Then you scroll through looking at the section headers in that paper, and then you also summarize by just looking at the conclusion. Or you can also use Control F to search for keywords to help you understand that article so that you can summarize it. So the summary is the first thing you do. So you might be required to, depending on how big that paragraph is, you might have several paragraphs under each reference. So the next thing after summary, you now evaluate accuracy, credibility, and so on. So under this, you can look at the author. So you can look at the author and see if it's a professor, the author's names, okay? If maybe they are professors in a very non-company organizations rather, maybe they are very non-business people, they are bestsellers and all that, they are experts in that field, so you comment on that. So you'll say the article is relevant or is accurate because it is written by authors who are experts in that field, who are actually affiliated to reputable organizations. You also look at affiliations. You look at affiliations. Maybe there is an article published in a very reputable journal, so it's affiliated to that journal. Maybe it's posted by a reputable organization such as the World Bank. Maybe it's posted by or affiliated to the WHO or such organization. So based on those affiliations, you can say if the article is accurate or credible. You can also look at the time. When was it published? Okay. So also look at you look at and then you comment based on what you find out. Sometimes the author, you might have to Google them. So get the authors and Google them and see, have they written other articles that have also done well? Are they known to be experts in that field? What are their bios? So you can Google those authors out, check out their profiles, check out their bios, and from there now you can decide if they are credible or not. So time, check if it's the more recent, the better. So of course you'll comment on the timeline, say it's accurate because it's a recent thing. Then you also look at the relevancy. So relevancy is that the topic, is it the article, is it the information there, is it still relevant? You know, the arguments, are they still relevant or they have been obsolete? You know, the relevancy of whatever their claims, the theories they use, the assumptions they make, are these assumptions still relevant? Yeah. And then you might also consider you can also look at consistency with other studies done on the topic. So you can also see, are their argument consistent with other researches that have been done on the topic? So you can compare their conclusions with other sources that you have. So say you have 10, you have been told to write 10 sources, do an annotation on 10 sources. So you can compare that with the other sources that you've talked about in that particular annotation in the annotated bibliography. So you can compare their findings. Are they consistent? Do they contradict common sense and things like that? So the second part you need to evaluate, which you look at the accuracy, the credibility of that particular article or book or whatever. So the last thing you need to do is to talk about how you will use it. So what is it about this article that makes you think you will use it in your research? What are the things that you will borrow from that article when you're now writing the full article? Maybe if in the case of effects of corruption, you can say, I intend to, in my research, I intend to focus on, look at some of the most corrupt countries in the world. And this article outlines these countries. And therefore, it's very useful in terms of highlighting some of the most corrupt countries in the world. So you look at your research question and whatever the article or the source is saying, and then you determine how you'd use it. If you are doing the research, if you are to do the research, how will this study feature in? What information does it have that will be useful to you when you're writing the actual research paper? So that's all about it. So sometimes you might have to write 3 paragraphs, so a paragraph for each area, a paragraph for summary, a paragraph for evaluation, and a paragraph for how you use it, depending on how large, how big each annotation is supposed to be. But if each annotation is just like 150 words, you can just put all of these 3 in one paragraph. So I have 2 sentences or 2 or 3 sentences that summarize the article, 3 or 5 sentences that evaluate its credibility or accuracy, and then a sentence or 2 on how you intend to use that specific article. So you do this for every article. So you actually have to get the article, you have to open it and read it for you to summarize, for you to evaluate, and determine how you are likely to use it. So let us do an example. So I'm going to Google Scholar and I'm going to just search how corruption affects health. So just corruption and health. So does corruption affect health outcomes in Philippines? This would have been a nice one, but the date is actually 208, so I'm going to leave that alone. We need to talk about corruption in health systems. I don't feel this one is really something I can pick. So corruption and health outcomes within, so I can pick on this. So let me just click the citation, the quotation marks, and then I want to pick MLA, APA. So I'll just pick APA. But remember, Google Scholar have not yet updated to APA 7th edition. The only thing they are missing is the active link. So in this case, I'll open it and add the active link because that is the only thing that is missing. But there are other citation generators like Scriba, which have already updated to APA 7. So you can use that. So in this case, I'll come and get the active URL. So in most cases, I'll want to pick the one assigned by DOI, the link assigned by DOI. So that's the one I'll use. So that's the only thing APA Google Scholar have not updated. So after I've written this down, I need to summarize it. So of course, I'll need to read it. So I've already done a video on how to break down such articles. So using Sci-Hub. So you guys already know that. So I'll take the DOI number and I'll go to Sci-Hub, where I'll try to see if I can unlock the article so that I summarize it. So I can summarize it by reading the abstract, and then I look the section headers, introduction, literature review. Just look at some of these section headers, data, hypothesis. You can just skim through and see if you can summarize it. But the best way, read the abstract and then go to the conclusion, because I don't think you have the luxury of reading all these pages, 13 pages. I don't think you have all that time. So you can read discussion and you go to conclusion if there's such a section, conclusions. Yeah, this will be very important in summarizing the article. So you can summarize by reading this small section and then you summarize, and then now you evaluate. So I'm not going to do that. I just say summarize. So let me just get a generic paragraph to use as a paragraph, as the annotation. Okay, let me just copy this and pretend that this is now my annotation. So my annotation, let me just make it one paragraph. So this paragraph contains the summary, contains the analysis, the evaluation, and how I'll use it. Then I also go to the next source. So I'll go back to Google Scholar and look at another one. So maybe you can filter. Let me filter from 2017 so that I don't get a lot of useless. So let me just pick on this. pkpa, then I'm gonna just paste it here. Again, you need to get the link because Google Scholar has not yet updated their referencing, so it's important for you to make sure you get the link. So in this case, I'll copy the mini and create the link. You can just create it yourself by writing https:// and then you write the doi.org, then / and then you just paste the number that you copied from yeah. Now that I have that, I can just now write my paragraph again. So I'll just copy paste this and and pretend that I've read it, I've summarized, and I finished. So once you're done with your 10 sources, so these are just 2, you make sure you format now your references. References, usually put them to hanging indentation. So that's a shortcut for that is Control T. But if you want to go the long way, you just go to paragraph setups and then you go to indentation and then select hanging by 0.5 inches. Then you do the same for this one. So just Control T will work, the shortcut. And then of course you need to properly ident your paragraphs. So a paragraph you ident by first line, and then create the cover page. Okay, so you can create the cover page. Let's say it was effects of corruption. Let me just remove this indentation. So the cover page will be title effects of corruption, and then I want to write name. So of course this is actually centered. I'll copy the reference once more. Then I want this to be 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4. The rest 1, 2, 3, so that they're separated. And then I create a new page, push everything else to the second page, and then I paste the title again. Then the title, you say it must be bold in the title case, so I'm just gonna put that. Then I'm gonna insert page number. Page number, you put it at top of page, line number 3. So you have it. So again, you should not have a separate reference page because these are references. But if you want, you can as well copy this and put them in the reference page again. But it doesn't really make sense because whatever you've been doing, you've been annotating your references. So there's no point of again repeating yourself. So that is basically, these are a good annotated bibliography. It's a simple one. So you can also try out, and in case you encounter any problems, you can just reach out.